Okay, fine. So year on 264, still chapter 10. We're almost done chapter 10, that speaks of these two very big and quite dominant Kabbalistic concepts, Mein Nukvin and Mein Duchrin, or feminine waters and masculine waters. So really this takes us back to the very second day of creation. On the second day of creation, God separated the waters. The world was filled with water, and then he separated those waters that filled the world, and he designated some of the waters to go below and some of the waters to remain above. Some of the waters that are below are not just the oceans and the seas, but they're also spiritual waters, which are also called Mein Nukvin, the feminine waters. And the upper waters are not just the clouds that carry water and rain that comes from above, but it is also the spiritual waters that are referred to Mein Duchrin, the masculine waters. What are they all about? So as Rabbi Stein's here explained, and these are very deep and profound Kabbalistic concepts, but it really relates to this idea that for everything to be created in this world, for anything to really exist and thrive, it needs both a giver and a receiver. Or maybe to put it differently, it needs both the act and it needs someone to maintain that act, right? Take, for example, the most banal example. There are very many one-day stars. Today, they call it 15 seconds of fame or 15 minutes of fame. I'm sure you've heard of that, right, before. But how about maintaining that fame? That's much, much, much harder. You can be successful in one exam in school. You can get an A+. How about maintaining that A+ throughout the year? That's much harder. So you have the act and you have the maintaining of the act. That's a different way of putting it. You have the action, the giver, that's once, and then you have the preserver, the receiver that needs to receive it and then preserve it. And in a way, these concepts are what these two waters are representing. You have the Mein Duchrin, the masculine waters, which come from above. It's in a way God's blessing, like rain, for example. If we go to those physical upper waters, rain. But then if we don't have a world to receive the rain, or more than that, if we don't have really crops, for example, to receive the rain, that can receive the blessing of the rain, then what's the rain worth? It's not worth anything. It will just dissipate and go away. So you need also receiving waters to be able to cultivate those waters that are being received from above, maintain them, and ensure that they become blessings. That's really the two big ideas here of feminine water versus masculine waters. While masculine water is referred to as the act or the giving waters, and the feminine water is referred to as more as the receiving waters. That's simply because also connected to the very beginning of creation, when this is now the sixth day of creation, when God created Adam and Eve, he placed them in the Garden of Eden, and as the Torah says, le'ovda u'leshomra, to work it and to preserve it. And in a way, to work it was Adam's job, and to preserve it was Eve's job. That was the delegation of jobs. In a way, that's one of the great maybe differences between males and females. I would say females make better mothers, for example. That motherly feeling, that presence, that fullness of presence is found by females more than by males. That listening ability, for example, because again, they are more l'shomra. They are the ones who really cultivate the upper waters and make sure that they maintain, that they are received and they are turned into blessings. Men are not too good at listening. I'm generalizing, I know, and there's exceptions to every rules, but we are maybe more doers. We like to do. You ask a man, who are you? You know what he'll do? He'll pull out his business card. For a man, what he does is his identity. Well, there's so much more, but he doesn't really know what he is. He's just doing. So it's one of the great differences. We can elaborate on that, but that's really why those genders to those waters, the masculine waters, which are the waters that give, and the feminine waters, which are the waters that receive. I just want to say one more thing, and then we can continue speaking about this, but speaking about also the relevance of this, of course. These are all very abstract terms, but just one more thing, and that is that you can ask the philosophical question of which water is more of a blessing. Is it the upper waters or the lower waters? Because the upper waters, obviously, say rain. Let's just go back to that example. Of course, it refers to much more than that, but rain is upper waters. Is rain really a blessing in and of itself? Or is it our ability to use that rain to cultivate our fields, to drink, to turn it into blessing? That's the blessing. What's the greater blessing? The upper waters or the lower waters? And I mean, of course, it's a philosophical question, but I would make the case that the feminine waters are a greater blessing than the masculine waters. Because as mentioned, if I cannot cultivate that blessing from above, then the blessing is not a blessing to begin with. I can, for example, if I can be facing, say, a wise man, say an Albert Einstein, and he can be giving me some great wisdom for life, but if I'm not in the mind space to receive that wisdom, then what's it worth? Not worth anything. If I'm in the mind space, if I can be receiving it and it can cultivate it and it can actually bring it to life and actualize it and really exercise it each and every day, then fine, then it was a blessing. So really, the masculine waters are dependent on the feminine waters. The upper waters are really dependent on the lower waters that can really cultivate those blessings. Otherwise, the blessings are not worth much. But that's just to philosophize on that question, but we can continue now and make it quite relevant. I hope that explained those terms, Mark.
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right, good. So let's continue now on page 264, as you said, at the bottom of the page.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Does anyone want to read? Anyone? All right.
I'll read. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
When the lower waters ascend, they cause a supernal union. They unite with the upper waters, stimulating them to meet their ascent with a descent of their own, a providence of masculine waters to the world, which are the flow of divine benevolence contained in each and every mitzvah of the 248 positive commandments, all of which are in the nature of benevolence and masculine waters. That is to say, the flow of holiness of his blessed divinity from above downward to be clothed within the nethermost worlds, as explained elsewhere.
Right, and here begins to make it relevant to us. These very profound terms, quite relevant, because what this is saying is that really the ultimate goal of creation, and I would say the ultimate goal of everyone's life, everyone has to achieve it in their own unique way because everyone is unique. But the ultimate goal, the collective goal that we each have, is to make heaven on earth, is to, in a way, merge heaven and earth so that earth becomes heaven. Each by, we've been speaking about this quite a bit, right? By doing mitzvahs, for example. Every time we do a mitzvah, we bring a piece of heaven down on earth. We draw a heavenly light. Every time we exercise goodness and kindness, again, we make this place a heavenly place, not just an earthly place. So that's the ultimate goal. Now, what does that have to do with masculine waters and feminine waters? Every time the feminine water absorbs this masculine water and brings it down and cultivates it, as we said, and turns it into a blessing, then what we've done is that we've united the masculine waters with the feminine waters, which really means that we've united heaven and earth. They are now becoming one. And in a way, we are really returning this place, or restoring this place to the place that it was at the very, very beginning of creation, when only God was fully revealed in every sphere of this universe, right? Because remember, the waters were separated on the second day of creation. What happened before that? What was the state of the world before that? The waters weren't separated. They were one. And with that oneness, God was fully revealed. It wasn't concealed in any shape or form. So in a way, each time we bring down a blessing from above, those masculine waters, we do a mitzvah and we bring down God below and his divine flow, his divine light, then we are able to restore this world as it was at the very, very, very beginning, even before that second day of creation, where God is fully revealed. That is also why think we've spoken about this maybe, but that is also why there's this great introduction to many of the blessings that we say in the prayer. Introduction is called L'Shem Yichud. Maybe you've seen it, but it basically is a Kabbalistic introduction that says that before I do the mitzvah, I'm cognizant, and this is what L'Shem Yichud says. I'm saying that I am cognizant that this mitzvah, L'Shem Yichud Kudsha B'Richu Shechinte, is going to unify God above and His Shekhinah below, or if you want to use these terms, the masculine waters with the feminine waters. That's what mitzvahs do. And not just doing a good deed. What is a mitzvah? You're unifying heaven and earth. You're making earth heaven. That's what a mitzvah is. So every time we do a mitzvah, the feminine waters are really taking those masculine waters and becoming one with them and making a blessing out of them. That's really the magic that happens. And this is what this is referring to. And in a way, it's the goal of every mitzvah. And thus, some of these mitzvahs are introduced with that prayer, L'Shem Yichud, the unification of heaven and earth. That's the big idea. I hope I'm not being too esoteric of here. But that's the idea. Maybe just to put it on a very practical level. But let's speak about the unification of a teacher and a student, for example, right? The teacher might be wise, and the student might not have reached the level of the teacher yet. That's why he's learning from him or from her. But every time a student takes a teaching of that wise teacher and understands it, but not just understands it, but puts it into practice, then there's a great unification between the teacher and the student. That's the ultimate connection between the teacher and the student. It's not just a connection of mind and of heart, but it's a connection of action, where in a way the student becomes the feet of the teachers in this world because he carries his teachings and he exercises them. That's what happens really as us, the students of God, so to speak. That's what happens each time when we not just understand a mitzvah, when God tells us respect your parents, when God tells us give tzedakah, whatever it may be, that when we do a mitzvah, we are not just understanding and connecting our mind to mind, or heart to heart by understanding now with our heart and having some emotion towards it, but we are connecting to God via action. And then we become God's walking feet on earth because we are bringing God down to this world by doing this mitzvah. That's really what this unification is all about. Give an analogy to it. Okay, so that's that. Again, I'm happy to hear your comments, your questions, your disagreements, and so on. It shouldn't be just me talking. Okay, all right. So let's continue. 265, this elaborates on this idea. Thus, there are two aspects to the mitzvah. Go for it.
Thus, there are two aspects to the mitzvah. The first is its elevating effect. The mitzvah, as we said, acts upon the lower waters, upon the profane world of Klipa Noga. The person performing the mitzvah takes a material substance, a part of the lower realm of creation, refines it, wholly or partially, and elevates it to the realm of holiness. In this sense, the act of a mitzvah is an ascending of feminine waters, but this is only one aspect of the mitzvah. The elevation of the matter by which the physical world raises itself on tiptoe, so to speak, in an effort to reach for the heavens, is met by a supernal response, a descending of masculine waters, an effusion of divine provision to the lower realm of creation.
Right. So it's not just the student again, now going up to the level of the teacher and understanding his teaching, to use, again, the exact same analogy, but it's also another teacher being brought down to this world through the student, because his teaching would have remained just an abstract notion, if not for the student to absorb it and then exercise it in this world, right? So the student now is drawing down that great wisdom of the teacher to this world, and by doing so, he's becoming, as we said, his feet that walks his teachings everywhere. So that's the ultimate unification. It's the elevation of the student to the wisdom of the teacher, but it's also the descent of the teacher to the level of the student, because the student now carries out his teachings down below to this world. By the way, this is why, we say that there's a great Talmudic line that speaks about Jacob, our forefather, Yaakov. And it says like this, Yaakov Avinu lo met, that Jacob, our father, did not die. And the Talmud is astounded and asks the question, what do you mean he didn't die? We read about his burial. We read about his mourning, people mourning for him. We read about all of this. How can you say he didn't die? Well, he's living among us somewhere. And the Talmud responds, no. Mazag'o b'chaim, afu b'chaim. Just as his descendants are alive, so too he is alive. It's not that he's physically alive in a body somewhere, but his teachings are being carried by his descendants. His descendants have become the feet of Jacob. So in very many ways, Jacob is still alive because they're carrying down his teachings down to the future generations, down to this world. So he's still alive. And Jacob might be up there in heaven, but his heaven is down here on earth through his descendants. So he's in a way very much still alive. And that's really what this means, that every time we do a mitzvah, we make sure that God is alive. God is alive, not just up there, but God is alive in this world. Is very, very much present in this world, thanks to us bringing down those masculine waters. So we didn't just go up to a divine level. They didn't just refine us. Some people think, oh, you should do a mitzvah because it's good for you. It makes you feel good, right? I'm sure you've heard that before. It refines you. You'll be a better person. That's just one side of the coin. That's your elevation. That's true. The elevation of feminine waters to masculine waters. But it's much more than that. Mitzvahs are not just commanded to us to feel good or to be better people. But there's much, the other side of the coin is that we, by doing so, are becoming God's walking feet. We bring down heaven on earth. There's much more to just me. It's about the world altogether. It's the world benefiting. And we're making sure that God is very much alive. That's the power of every mitzvah. Every mitzvah, therefore, is really a reunification of those two waters, and making God truly one again, truly wholesome again. That's really the idea here. We see that again with people that pass on. By the way, it's very apropos because this coming week, it should be said, this Thursday night and Friday is the 17th of the month of Av, and that's the Yortzeit of the third Yortzeit of Rabbi Dean Steinsaltz, the commentary that we are learning here on the Tanya. And in many ways, by us learning his commentary, we're becoming his feet, right? So he's still very much alive. Again, we didn't just ascend to his level, to his wisdom, say, but his wisdom descended in the most practical way by us learning it. And then in of itself creates some sort of unification. So it's very much true for this life and the afterlife, but it's true for mitzvahs, again, bring heaven down to earth. That's the real side of the mitzvah. It's not just self-refinement. It's world refinement. Let's put it that way. Okay, but I'd love to hear your comments. Again, please feel free. Otherwise, we can continue. Okay, so let's continue. So the essence of mitzvah.
Okay, so the essence of mitzvah is an adjoining tzvata of the terrestrial with the supernal, a collaboration of the human and the divine in a single act, the act of the mitzvah. The mitzvah, then, is more than an ascent of the lower. It is also a spurt of divinity from above, in which the divine immanence is revealed within the physical reality. Thus are the supernal and the lowly joined and united. This confluence of forces is the union of the Holy One and his Shekhinah, implicit in every mitzvah. Every act of Torah study, prayer, or charity is an ascent of the feminine waters, evoking a descent of masculine waters. This dynamic is also called an arousal from below that evokes an arousal from above.
Right. And it's important to remember because in a way, you know, we speak of God being concealed in this world, at least. That is also why the word for world in Hebrew is olam, right? Olam in Hebrew comes from the word le'alim, he'elem, which really means concealed. That's because this world is concealing God in many ways. God concealed himself. That's the big Kabbalistic notion that we learned about, where God contracted himself as he came down to this world and concealed himself by this contraction. Now, every time we do a mitzvah, we, in a way, are shouting to God, saying, stop concealing yourself. Stop hiding. We know you're there. Come out of your hiding place. Reveal yourself a little bit more. And when we do that, it, in a way, it hits God's soft spot. God can't remain apathetic to that. Almost like a child who goes to his parents and says, okay, Dad, stop. I need you. I need your I know you're there. I know you're busy on your phone. I know you, but I need to talk to you. You can't remain apathetic to that. And especially if the child then goes and does what the father wants or the mother wants, and whatever it may be. You know, it could be as little like as finishing your dinner plate. Oh, you finished your dinner? The parents can be on their phones all they want, but oh, you did what we want. Oh, that touches something. It's a stupid thing, but I'm just saying. So every time we do a mitzvah, it's almost saying to God, okay, we know you're hiding, but it's time for you to come out. Reveal yourself a little bit more, because we just revealed you. You can't fool us. And God can't remain apathetic to that. Then the olam is not as concealed as we think it is. And the olam does not conceal God as much as we think it conceals him. And that's really the idea here of the feminine waters unifying with the masculine waters. So every time the feminine waters really act upon doing a mitzvah, as we said, it arouses the masculine waters. God says, okay, wow, I've been discovered. Yes, thank you. And I'm going to be even more present now. That's really what happened. So it's not just self-refinement, as we said, it's world refinement. Yeah.
So God really wants to be revealed.
Yeah. Very much so. You know, the Baal Shem Tov would use the founder of the Hasidic movement would use the parable. It's interesting because we just read this, that says that God will hide himself on that day. God says, I will hide myself from you on that day. And the word hiding is doubled. Haster astir. I will hide myself from you on that day. That's the literal translation. Why is the word hiding doubled? And the Baal Shem Tov would use the parable of a child who's playing hide and seek with his peers. And it's his turn to hide. So he goes and he hides. The problem is that he hides himself too well, to the point that the children, his friends that are looking for him, have now given up. They looked for him, but he hid himself too well. So they give up. And the child is sad. He's in his hiding place and no one is searching for him anymore. And in a way, the Baal Shem Tov says, God, you wanted to hide yourself. You hid yourself doubly. Haster astir. You hid yourself too well. And people are not looking for you anymore, but it's your fault. For playing hide and seek, you take the game too seriously that you're hiding yourself to the point that no one seeks you anymore. There's only the hide, there's not the seek. So it's time for you to come out of your hiding place. But in a way, every time we do a mitzvah, we're revealing God from his hiding. Every time we search for God, we're still in the game. But we're also asking God, don't hide yourself too well. We know this world, as we said, conceals you. But come on, show us some signs. Yeah. Well, you know, we just had Tisha B'Av last week, the 9th of Av, in which we mourn the destruction of both Jerusalem temples and many other tragedies, like the Spanish Inquisition began on that day, and First World War that began on that day. It's really a day of doom. But in a way, that's what that day is all about. We say to God, okay, you've hid yourself, we've had all these tragedies. There's no greater concealment than in these tragedies. And it's enough. Stop hiding yourself too well. And it's not like we're not searching for you. We're searching for you. There's a very profoundly moving clip of the Lubavitch Rebbe who just burst in tears. It says, on Sunday we were searching for you. On Monday we're searching for you. Tuesday we're searching for you. And you're not revealing yourself. What's happening? It's enough. But in a way, it becomes really a cry. But how do we reveal God? Every time we do a mitzvah, we reveal God. And hopefully those mitzvahs will, as we said, hit those soft spots of God. And he'll finally reveal himself completely and come out of his hiding place.